"Human, why do you have a mini Shai-Hulud between your legs?" shouted the alien maid lady. Kale stared at the being standing over his makeshift cot, her features blurring slightly behind a veil of genuine confusion. Her form was humanoid, gracefully proportioned, but her skin wasn't skin in any way. Kale understood. It was more like woven starlight, shifting with internal luminescence that pulsed faintly with her emotion. He couldn't tell. Her eyes, large and multifaceted, blinked slowly. What now?" he managed, his voice scratchy. He'd been pulled from the wreckage of his scouting vessel 2 cycles ago, according to the rhythmic hum of the floating city temple he was now on. They called themselves the Resonant, and their world was a colossal, hollowed-out sphere drifting through the void. Lyra, the being currently questioning his anatomy with alarming directness, was apparently some kind of high-ranking everything. Priestess, noble, guardian, he hadn't figured it out yet. Her title, as translated by the rudimentary Universal Translator module sparking erratically near his ear, was something like "she who guides the currents." That appendage, she gestured with a hand that seemed to trail faint starlight. "The fleshy protrusion. It is unfamiliar, and the way your undergarment is formed, it implies a significant structure." Kale felt a flush creep up his neck. Leave it to his luck to crash land on a world where basic biology was a mystery and get grilled about his junk by the local royalty. "Okay, look, that's pretty standard equipment where I come from," he mumbled, pulling the threadbare blanket higher. "Different species, different plumbing, no big deal." Lyra tilted her head, the movement somehow both fluid and precise. "Standard? On your origin sphere, are all males thusly equipped with such variable configurations?" The dryness of her tone, whether intentional or a function of translation, was perfect. Kale almost chuckled. "Yeah, more or less. It's kind of important for, making more humans." He felt the need to elaborate, as little as possible. This culture was weird. They lived on giant space rocks, spoke in metaphors about currents and resonance, and apparently wore clothes that weren't tailored for distinct biological features. His current attire, a simple, robe-like garment they'd given him, felt ridiculously drafty in places it absolutely shouldn't. Lyra's shimmering skin pulsed a deeper blue. Curiosity, perhaps, or mild alarm. He couldn't read it. "The resonance bonding does not involve such. The external variability," she stated, her voice losing some of its formal detachment. "Our forms align. Our internal currents meet. The joining is harmonic, within the core." She tapped a spot on her chest, near where a human heart would be. Kale just nodded slowly. Right. Space sex was apparently less about external parts and more about feeling the force. "Look, can we maybe talk about why I'm here and how I can get home?" he asked, trying to steer the conversation away from his anatomy. "Or maybe just get me something that fits better?" Lyra regarded him for a long moment. "You are here because the sphere of Aethel pulled your vessel from the void. You have survived the impact which few off-worlders ever do. As for returning, the sphere follows its path. It does not linger for strays." Her words, though gentle in tone, were a cold statement of fact. He was stuck on a giant, wandering space rock, being quizzed on his private parts by a woman made of starlight. This was officially the strangest deployment he'd ever had. The hum of the temple pulsed around them, a low, resonant thrum that vibrated deep in his bones. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was constant, like the whole world was singing a single, never-ending note. "You interfere with the currents," Lyra said, her gaze now fixed not on him but seemingly through him, at something distant. Her shimmering skin shifted, a subtle ripple of gold through the blue. "Your presence here, it disrupts the alignment for the grand convergence. It is an imbalance." Kale sat up gingerly, his ribs still protesting. "My presence? How? I'm just one guy, crashed here by accident." "The sphere knows," she said simply, turning her multifaceted eyes back to him. "Its resonance is sensitive to all life upon it, especially foreign frequencies. Yours is loud, clashing." Kale frowned. "Loud? Clash?" He felt pretty quiet, mostly focused on not dying and trying to figure out what was going on. "So what? Am I supposed to just..." Turn down the volume on my soul, he asked, a hint of his usual dry humor slipping out despite the pain. Lyra didn't seem to understand the humor. Her expression remained serious, perhaps even a little troubled. It is not a matter of choice. Your very being resonates at a discordant frequency, this close to the apex convergence point. She trailed off, her gaze drifting to a specific part of the chamber, where crystalline structures pulsed with soft light. The resonance ritual is delicate. If it fails, Kale prompted, when she didn't continue. Lyra was silent for a moment, her luminous form still. The Vrax will know, she finally said, her voice low, the light on her skin dimming slightly. They seek to exploit the sphere's power. The convergence seals the ancient breaches. A failed ritual leaves us vulnerable. It leaves them vulnerable. She gestured vaguely towards the structures. Kale felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature of the chamber. Vrax, another alien race he hadn't encountered. Great, just what he needed. He was caught between a rock, literally, a giant one, and a hard place, apparently some bad guys who wanted to steal the giant rock's power. Okay, so, I'm messing things up just by being here. And if I mess things up, space bad guys show up. Kale clarified, needing a simpler breakdown. Lyra nodded. A small, almost imperceptible movement. Essentially, yes. Your discordance creates a vulnerability that the Vrax's own chaotic frequencies can exploit. They are drawn to it, like void scavengers to a failing core. This was getting complicated fast. He was supposed to be a medic, not an interspecies ritual disruptor. And there's no way to silence my frequency or move me somewhere else. Kale asked, thinking of any possible solution. Lyra's shimmering skin pulsed again, a fident pattern this time, one Kale couldn't interpret but felt like negation. To silence your frequency would be to silence your life. And it determines who resides upon its skin. Moving you requires a resonance bonding, a deep link to guide you through the higher currents. That ritual is only performed under specific conditions, with specific partners. Her gaze met his, and Kale felt a jolt that had nothing to do with his injuries. The way she looked at him, that held a strange weight, a destiny he didn't understand. Specific partners, he echoed, a knot forming in his stomach. Yes, those whose bloodlines are tied to the sphere's pulse. Those chosen for the convergence rites. She didn't look away, her multifaceted eyes seeming to penetrate deep into his own. He suddenly felt acutely aware of the conversation they just had about his anatomy. The implication, horrifying and absurd, began to dawn on him. You don't think you want me to do your resonance bonding ritual with you? Kale stammered, incredulous. Lyra remained impassive, her form radiating that inscrutable light. You are present at the apex convergence point. Your frequency is bound to this location, to the disruption. The convergence requires a merging, a harmonic alignment of two life currents, to seal the breaches. Your discordant frequency must be incorporated, neutraled within a stronger, aligned field. She explained it like a physics problem, devoid of emotion. The ritual was prepared for another, a bloodline male whose frequencies resonated appropriately. Failed the trials. Her light pulsed again, a flicker of something that might have been regret or just factual data. Now, only one whose frequency is present, even in discordance, can attempt the merging. The sphere dictates the participants. Kale's mind reeled. He crashes his ship, finds himself on a sentient space rock, ruled by light beings, discovers his mere existence is a security threat, and now he's being told he has to participate in a ritual marriage because the intended groom flunked. This is insane, he muttered. I don't even know you. I don't know your customs, your rituals. I definitely don't know anything about merging frequencies. Ignorance is not a shield against destiny. Human Kale, Lyra stated, her voice firm. The convergence approaches. The Vrax gather in the outer dark. If the ritual fails, the sphere itself will be vulnerable. Not just this temple, but the core, the migratory path. Everything the resonant are depends on this. And your presence is the key variable that must be accounted for. She walked towards the pulsing crystals, her luminous form gliding over the smooth floor. Your frequency, while discordant, is powerful, untamed, but strong. With guidance, it might be possible to integrate it, to turn the disruption into a stabilizing force. Kale stared at her back, watching the subtle shift of light across her form. Guidance? What kind of guidance? Lyra turned back, her eyes holding that unnerving depth. The ritual requires a joining, a complete merging of currents, core to core. It is a profound intimacy, a vulnerability our kind undertake only once in a lifetime. With our chosen resonance partner. She paused. The convergence ritual is also the highest form of resonance bonding. She walked closer, her luminous skin warming the air around her. It is not a matter of desire, Kale. It is necessity, ritual survival. She reached out a hand, not touching him, but holding it near his face. He could feel the subtle energy radiating from her, a warmth and a complex vibration that resonated with the hum of the sphere. My bloodline, the keepers of the apex, are sworn to this duty, to ensure the convergence. My destiny is bound to the ritual. Now, yours is as well. Kale looked from her hand, shimmering with soft light, to her face, alien and beautiful and utterly serious. He was a medic, a man who fixed broken bodies and patched up busted tech. He wasn't built for this. He wasn't built for ancient rituals, political stakes, or merging his life current with an alien noblewoman to save a world he didn't understand. But looking into her eyes, he saw something that felt undeniably real beneath the formal ritual speak, a deep well of burden and perhaps, just perhaps, a flicker of desperation. What happens during this bonding? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lyra lowered her hand. We merge, she said simply. Skin to skin, core to core, our frequencies become one. For a time we are the sphere, and the sphere is us. We feel the breaches, and together we weave the field to seal them. It sounded both terrifying and strangely alluring. He spent the next cycle under Lyra's careful observation, learning snippets of their language and culture, mostly centered around resonance and currents. His translator still sputtered, but Lyra was surprisingly patient, using gestures and sometimes, to Kale's astonishment, brief, controlled bursts of feeling, energy. It was like a concept was beamed into his mind, accompanied by a specific emotional tint. Hunger felt like a hollow ache, and a sharp red flash. Safety was a warm, steady blue glow. Lyra explained these were simple resonance echoes, a fraction of what the ritual involved. It requires precise control, she told him. Her luminous skin a calm, steady blue. Uncontrolled resonance can be chaotic, destructive. Kale watched her, fascinated. So, you can feel what others feel? Lyra hesitated, her light rippling. Not exactly, not clearly. Only controlled echoes. A true merging. That is different. He felt a moment of purely self-interested panic. If they merged, could she read his mind? All his embarrassing thoughts, his fears, his memories. Will you know everything about me? He asked, the thought making him squirm. Lyra's form pulsed gold briefly. Amusement? Only what your current chooses to share, Kale. It is not intrusion, but integration. If you resist, the merging is incomplete, unstable. Great. So, either he let this beautiful starlight woman see into his soul, or he risked dooming her world and getting eaten by space bad guys. The pressure from the racks intensified. Scans on the temple's main view screen showed their ships, jagged, dark shapes, like broken teeth in the blackness, positioning themselves around the sphere. Lyra's light grew subtly brighter, more agitated. They are testing the outer currents, she explained, her voice tight, seeking weaknesses. If the convergence is not completed on time, they will exploit the instability. She had moved him from the medical bay to a small, austere chamber, near the central convergence crystals. It felt less like a room and more like a part of the temple's infrastructure, the walls humming with latent energy. We must begin the preparatory rites, she announced one cycle, entering the chamber with a retinue of other resonant, their forms similarly luminous, but with varying light patterns. They brought ornate robes that shimmered with embedded crystals and strange instruments that hummed when touched. Kale felt completely out of his depth. He was a guy who wore worn-out fatigues and swore at broken machinery. This opera on a cosmic scale. The rites were a bewildering sequence of chants, resonant tones, careful movements around the crystals. Lyra, shed of her more formal outer layers, wore a simple, flowing garment that highlighted the fluid grace of her movements. Her inner light pulsed in time with a ritual hum. Growing in intensity, she instructed Kale patiently but with an undercurrent of urgency on where to stand, when to breathe, how to focus his intent. It was all very abstract. Feel the hum, Kale, she instructed, her voice a soft chime over the deeper resonance. Let your inner current align with it. Release the chaos. Release the chaos. Cal thought his inner state was pretty orderly, all things considered, just trying not to get killed. But he focused, breathing deeply, trying to sense this current she spoke of. He felt the vibration in his bones, the low thrum of the sphere. It was like a heartbeat, vast and ancient. Lyra watched him, her expression intent. Her light flickered towards a pale green. Concern? Frustration? Your current is stubborn, she finally said, stepping closer. It resists the natural flow. It holds tension. Kale shrugged, feeling inadequate. Yeah, well, I've been shot at, crashed into a planetoid and told I have to marry a light being to save the world. Maybe I'm a little tense? A brief, unexpected ripple of gold crossed Lyra's skin. Humor? It vanished instantly. Tension disrupts harmony. Harmony is essential for the convergence. She reached out, taking his hand. Her touch was warm, gentle, and vibrant. A surge of energy, not unpleasant, flowed up his arm. Her luminous skin pressed against his human skin, a strange, beautiful contrast. Focus on my current, she instructed softly. Let yours find a chord. He looked at her face, so close now. The intricate patterns within her multifaceted eyes seemed to swirl with light. He focused on the feeling of her head in his, the warmth, the vibration. He tried to imagine his own internal state, usually a messy tangle of anxiety and dry wit, smoothing out, aligning with hers. Gradually, the chaotic noise in his head seemed to quiet, replaced by the steady, powerful hum of the sphere amplified by Lyra's touch. Her light brightened, a pure, steady blue. Better, she murmured. You have the capacity. It is simply untrained. The ritual continued, deepening with each cycle. The racks pressed closer, their ships now visible as dark specks against the swirling nebulae outside the viewing ports. The hum of the sphere grew louder, more insistent, vibrating not just in his bones but in his very cells. Lyra and Kale spent hours together, practicing the alignment, the touch, the controlled sharing of currents. It was strange, intimate work, requiring a level of trust Kale hadn't anticipated. Lyra was formal, ritualistic, but beneath the layers of duty, he began to sense a vulnerability, a quiet fear for her people and her world. He saw glimpses of it in the subtle shifts of her light, the minute tightening of her posture. Is it always this intense? He asked one moment, feeling the energy thrumming between them, a prelude to the deeper connection. Lyra sighed, a soft sound, her light softened to a gentle white, signifying calmness. The convergence is the most critical ritual. The stakes are absolute. But yes, resonance bonding is never undertaken lightly. It is a binding of souls. One evening, as they rested between segments of the ritual, the temple alarms blared. Not the low hum, but a sharp, jarring clang. Lyra's form instantly flared bright, agitated crimson. The Vrat, she cried, her voice sharp with alarm. They are attempting a direct breach of the outer layers. They know the ritual is commencing. Chaos erupted around them. Other resonant rushed through the corridors, their lights flashing with urgency. Lyra grabbed Kale's arm, her grip surprisingly strong. We must reach the apex point. Now. She pulled him through the swirling crowd, her speed astonishing. The temple, usually a place of serene resonance, was now a maze of flashing lights and urgent movement. They ran, the floor vibrating with impacts from the outer hull. Kale, despite his healing injuries, kept pace, adrenaline surging. He was a soldier, after all. This at least he understood, running from bad guys. They reached the chamber of the apex point just as the heavy blast door hissed shut behind them. The room was filled with the main convergence crystals, towering structures of pure light that pulsed with blinding intensity. The hum here was deafening, vibrating through everything. Outside, the sounds of attack were muffled, but still terrifyingly present. Sharp impacts, energy weapons fire, the sickening grind of hull breach. Lyra stood before the main crystal, her form radiating an intense, focused light. "The racks are here," she shouted over the din, her voice strained. "Inside the sphere, they seek to disrupt the ritual at the source." Kale looked around wildly. Where? He saw only her, the pulsing crystals, and the terrifying light shows from the ongoing battle visible through reinforced observation ports. "How do we stop them?" he yelled back. "Where are they?" Lyra pointed a trembling hand towards the floor near the main crystal. Kale looked down. The smooth, dark surface seemed to shimmer, then distort. A section of it seemed to melt, flowing like liquid metal, revealing a dark, gaping hole, and from the hole they emerged. Jagged, multi-limbed figures, their forms dark and angular, covered in chitinous armor that seemed to absorb light. Vrak. They used chaotic frequency charges to breach the inner layers, Lyra explained, her light flaring defensively. "They will attempt to shatter the crystals, to poison the resonance." The racks scrambled out of the hole, their many limbs clicking on the floor. They carried brutal-looking energy weapons. Lyra stood her ground, radiating protective energy, but Kale could see she was a guardian, not a direct combatant in this form. Her power was tied to the sphere's energy, to resonance and harmony, not brute force. Kale instinctively reached for a weapon he didn't have. He was a medic. His tools were scalpels and bandages, not pulse rifles, but old instincts died hard. He spotted a heavy, crystalline rod lying near a console, likely a ritual implement. He snatched it up. It hummed in his hands, surprisingly heavy. "Stay back," he yelled at Lyra, positioning himself between her and the first wave of racks. "I'll try to buy us time." It was a crazy, stupid idea. He was one human with a fancy stick against armored aliens with laser guns. But he couldn't just stand there and watch her get hurt. The Vraks attacked. Their energy blasts sizzled through the air, leaving trails of smoke. Kale ducked and weaved, relying on raw instinct and the surprising heft of the crystalline rod. He deflected a blast with the rod. The crystal flared brilliantly but held. This thing was tougher than it looked. He swung it like a club, the humming resonance in it amplifying with the force of his blow. He connected with the arm of one Vrax. The alien shrieked, its chitin cracking, black liquid oozing out. More Vrax flooded from the breach. Kale fought desperately, parrying blasts, swinging the heavy rod. He wasn't trained for this kind of melee, but years of putting himself between his patients and danger had honed his reflexes. He felt a searing pain in his side as a blast grazed him, knocking him to the ground. He grunted, pushing himself back up, his vision swimming. There were too many of them. Just as Avrax raised its weapon for a finishing blow, Lyra moved. Her light flared, not in a defensive pulse but outward, a wave of pure, resonant energy. It hit the Vrax like a physical force, staggering them, making their jagged forms vibrate uncontrollably. The Vrax leader, larger and more heavily armored, shrieked a command, its voice a grinding static. Several Vrax broke from the attack on Kale and lunged towards the main crystal, weapons raised. "No!" Lyra cried, her light pulsing with agony. They must not reach it. Kale saw his chance. Injured but fueled by adrenaline and a sudden, fierce protectiveness towards the luminous being beside him, he charged towards the Vrax heading for the crystal. He tackled the first one, bringing the heavy crystal rod down with all his might. The rod shattered on the Vrax's armor, but the impact combined with Kale's momentum sent the creature sprawling. He rolled, grabbing a piece of the shattered rod, a shard sharp enough to potentially do some damage. More Vrax converged on the crystal. Lyra was radiating energy, trying to disrupt them, but they were resistant, their chaotic frequencies acting like a shield. They were raising their weapons, aiming for the heart of the temple's power. There was no more time. "Lyra," Kale yelled, pushing himself towards her. "The ritual. We have to do it now." Lyra turned, her multifaceted eyes wide, her luminous form trembling with effort and fear. Now, during the breach? It's the only way, Kale gasped, clutching his wounded side. Seal the breaches, right? Maybe doing it now will stop them? Lyra looked from the attacking Vrax to Kale, her light fluctuating wildly. Her duty, her ritual, was everything. But the time, it was sacred. Doing it now, under attack, was unthinkable. And yet, the Vrax were steps away from destroying everything. She looked at Kale, bruised and bleeding, standing between her and the invaders with a broken piece of crystal. His chaotic frequency, the one that had caused all this trouble, was now focused, directed in fierce defense of her and her world. The ritual requires harmony, Lyra stated, her voice strained, and vulnerability. She looked at Kale again, her eyes searching his. His face was grained with dirt and sweat, his body language screaming pain. But his gaze was steady, resolute. He wasn't just a disruptive frequency. He was protection. He was here now, willing to risk everything for a world that wasn't his. Her light settled, becoming a fierce, burning gold. The apex point is compromised, she said, making a decision. But the core resonance still calls. We must attempt emerging. Here, now. She extended her hand to him. Kale, focus your current. Let go of resistance. Allow the flow. He took her hand, his calloused human skin meeting her luminous, warm surface. The energy surged between them, powerful and raw. The Vrax were closing in, their weapons firing. Lyra pulled him towards the main crystal. Strip away the outer layers, she commanded, her voice urgent. The ritual requires true connection. Kale didn't hesitate. He fumbled with the simple robe they'd given him, tearing it away. Lyra, with a fluid movement, shed her outer garment, revealing her form beneath, pure luminous energy contained within her elegant shape. The hum of the crystal intensified, becoming a thrumming roar. Energy arced between it and them. The Vrax reached the base of the crystal, their weapons aimed. Now Kale, Lyra cried, her voice a chime interwoven with the sphere's song. Skin to skin, core to core, merge with me. Let the sphere resonate through us. He pulled her close, her body warm and vibrant against his. Her luminous skin met his, a breathtaking sensation of light and life against solid flesh. The energy surged, overwhelming. He felt her pulse, not a beat of blood, but a rhythm of pure resonance, aligning with the thrum in his own chest. Their currents, as she called them, met and mingled, a flood of unfamiliar sensation. He felt not just his own thoughts and feelings, but echoes of hers. Duty, fear, a fierce love for her world, a flicker of surprise, of wonder, at this strange, discordant human frequency pressing against her own. The Vrax opened fire on the crystal. Energy blasts slammed into the towering structure. Lyra and Kale, locked in their embrace, felt it like a physical blow. The crystal pulsed violently. Hold, Lyra urged, her voice raw with effort. Feel the core, feel the sphere, we must anchor it. The energy between them intensified, blindingly bright. Kale felt his own consciousness expanding, merging with a vast, ancient awareness of the wandering sphere. He felt the breaches in the outer layers, the chaotic frequencies of the Vrax, like jagged wounds, and he felt Lyra's presence beside him in this expanded awareness, a beacon of pure, resonant light guiding him. Their combined current flowed into the crystal, a surge of power and harmony against the chaos. The Vrax shrieked as the energy field around the crystal flared, pushing them back. The crystal rod, shattered on the floor, pulsed with the same energy, radiating a chaotic reflection of their merged state. It wasn't just energy merging. As their forms pressed together, skin to skin, the ritual deepened, became something raw and primal and undeniably intimate. The sphere's resonance flowed through them, through their joined bodies, synchronizing them on a level far beyond thought or emotion. They felt the ancient pulse of the world, and within that pulse, the rhythm of each other. Lyra's luminous form seemed to flow into his, her light weaving with the heat of his skin, the beat of his human heart. It was overwhelming, disorienting, and intensely sensual. This wasn't just a ritual, it was a complete, unshielded joining. The Vrax, battered by the energy pulse, regrouped, pressing their attack. They aimed for the base of the crystal again. Lyra gasped, her resonance faltering. They are too strong. The chaotic frequency. No! Kale gritted out, clinging to her. He focused on the feeling of her against him, the strange, wonderful sensation of merging light and warmth. He let go of everything else. The fear, the pain, the absurdity of it all. He focused purely on her, on the feel of her life force intertwining with his. He poured all of himself into the merging, his own chaotic human current, his stubborn life force, his protective instinct. It wasn't harmony in the way Lyra understood it, perhaps, but it was potent. It was real. The light between them flared, brighter than the crystal itself. It wasn't just Lyra's resonance now, it was theirs. A fusion of steady light and chaotic fire, channeled through their joined forms. The energy surged outwards, a wave of devastating force that slammed into the attacking Vrax. They were lifted off their feet, thrown against the walls of the chamber, their chitinous armor cracking and smoking. Shrieks of pain echoed through the room. The dark breach in the floor sealed itself with a sickening thud. The Vrax invasion was repelled, at least from the apex point. As the energy faded, Lyra and Kale collapsed together, still entwined, their bodies humming with spent power. The chamber was silent except for the low, steady thrum of the sphere, now seemingly calmer. Kale lay there breathing heavily, acutely aware of Lyra's luminous form draped over him, the soft light of her skin against his, the intimacy of the past moments, born of desperation and ritual, crashed over him. He had just married, bonded, something profound and irreversible had happened between them. In the heart of a battle powered by a giant space rock, Lyra stirred, her light weak but steady. She pushed herself up slightly, looking down at Kale. Her multifaceted eyes, usually so inscrutable, now held a depth of emotion he could almost read. Awe, exhaustion, and something else he couldn't quite place. "We did it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The breaches are sealed. For now." She touched his face, her hand warm and luminous. "Your frequency." It was not just discordant. It was anchoring, like a root finding purchase in shifting soil. Kale managed a weak smile. "Was glad I could be the anchor. Didn't exactly plan on it." The dry humor felt out of place after what they just experienced. Lyra didn't smile, but her light shifted, a soft pattern of gold and blue that felt remarkably like tenderness. The ritual. It was completed, she said, her voice gaining some of its formal cadence back, but colored by a new softness. "The resonance bonding is absolute. Your current is now irrevocably linked to mine, and through me, to the sphere itself." Kale's smile faded. "Absolute. What does that mean? For us? For just this?" He gestured vaguely between them, still intertwined on the floor amidst the smoking debris of the Vrax attack. Lyra's light pulsed, a complex pattern this time, one he intuitively understood as complex answer incoming. "It means, Clay, you are bonded, Kale. By sphere law, by ritual, by the convergence itself, you are my resonance partner. My bonded." She paused, her gaze steady. "It means, Judge, you belong here now, with me, on the sphere." The weight of her words settled on him. No going home. His life as he knew it was over. He was bound to a luminous alien woman on a wandering space rock, thanks to a failed groom and an alien invasion. It was insane. It was terrifying. And looking at Lyra, at the quiet strength in her eyes, the breathtaking beauty of her form in the aftermath of chaos, a strange, unexpected feeling bloomed in his chest. It wasn't just obligation or fear. It was connection. My people. Voted. They will not understand, Lyra said, her light dimming slightly. A human, a chaotic frequency, bonded to the heiress of the apex. There will be, then, challenges. Kale pushed himself up, wincing as his wounded side protested. Lyra immediately reached out, her hand glowing softly over the injury. He felt a soothing warmth, the sphere's resonance channeled through her, accelerating his healing. "Yeah," Will Kale said, looking down at her, a genuine smile touching his lips this time. "My people won't understand either. Turns out my dating life just got a lot more complicated. Lyra's light rippled with that same faint golden humor he'd seen earlier. Complicated, she echoed, testing the word. An accurate description. Your current brings. Descene. Unpredictability. She rose gracefully, extending a hand to help him up. Their fingers intertwined, light and warmth meeting human skin. The bond was there, palpable between them, a humming line of connection that ran deeper than language. The Vraks were repelled for now, but the threat lingered in the outer dark. Their world was safe, but their lives were irrevocably changed. They were bound by ritual, forged in battle. Two disparate frequencies, now intertwined in a cosmic dance they were just beginning to understand.